Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It's your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. Today, we are discussing a 2020 model year limited edition of 700 pieces. This is the Grand Seiko Spring Drive Professional Diver, the 600 meter, the SLGA001. In grade 5 titanium, this sport collection watch measures 46.9 millimeters in diameter. It is 15.7 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip. It is 50.8 millimeters, and if we include the solid end links of the titanium bracelet, the watch is 54.5 millimeters across the wrist with a 23 millimeter spacing between the lugs, and it comes with a second silicone accessory strap when you buy it. Now, the watch wears well for something so large. You hear 46 millimeters, you think IWC Big Pilot's watch, and if you can wear that, you can wear this. It's actually quite light, being all titanium and sapphire, but it's also quite large. I'll let you decide whether it fits on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, but what I will tell you is that it sits securely. That said, you'll have no problems with fit or appearance on a wrist of 17 centimeters circumference or larger. Now, the watch is nicely built, and the bracelet is substantial. A lot of Grand Seiko watches have relatively narrow lug spacings, which is why it's nice to see this one is 23 millimeters between the lugs, because it gives it a nice proportional look. It has a broad-shouldered set of lugs and a broad, ultimately tapered titanium bracelet, so everything appears proportional. You can see we have polished intermediate, staggered link size and alignment. We have satinated outer flanks, but then there's a lovely rolled, polished bevel along the side of the links. Now, this being a Grand Seiko bracelet in titanium, removable links are fixed in place using pins and sleeves, so if you do want to size this at home, you'll need a block and a punch to do so. That said, your strap tool will allow you to pick any one of 4 pairs of divots to change the anchoring point of the bracelet inside the clasp. And the clasp is a smart piece. Unlike almost every other diving clasp ever made, this one allows you to make adjustments to the clasp when it's closed and on your wrist. You pull up these little polished winglets, and now you can make all those adjustments. You can pull it out all the way to use it over a dive suit, or you can just make small sizing adjustments to tailor your fit. It's a very, very smart system, and it does offer a lot of absolute range of adjustment there. Now, it's also well locked. As you can see, we have both a clamshell lock and a twin trigger lock, so it's not going to pop open inadvertently. Really, the only other clasp I know of that allows you to adjust on the wrist is on the Rolex Deep Sea and on the new Rolex 50 millimeter Sea Dweller. That watch makes this one look like a mid-size, and the fit really is quite nice. Because of the titanium, this watch is super light. Now, while Grand Seiko calls this high-intensity titanium, I call it grade 5 or something darn identical to it, because grade 2 can't be polished, and this can. Grade 5 can be polished, and so is this. It's also harder than most stainless steels and lighter, plus it's hypoallergenic. The parts that are polished are executed using Grand Seiko's legendary Zaratsu polish, the Japanese word for Zalitz machine polish. It is a tin plate black polishing by which the artisan holds the surface to be polished directly against a spinning tin plate, and this artisanal method takes 3 years to master, so this is very much a handcrafted case. We also have a off-centered crown designed to make the watch ambidextrous. You can see the crown is both media blasted and polished. The case is polished and satinated. We have a bezel, which is 120 click. Let's hear it. Super refined and high-end. One of the smoothest and most precise actions I've encountered. I would consider it to be equivalent to the best dive bezels I've tried from the likes of Rolex and Cartier. It's not as loud and chunky as, say, a Doxa Sub or a Panerai Luminor Submersible, but what it is 120 click precise and upscale. Eyes closed, you would swear it's a much more expensive watch. Now, we'll do a quick loom shot here so you can see how loomed this diver is in the dark. Note all 3 hands are loomed, including the seconds hand, which has a luminescent counterweight, so you know if your diver is running before you take the plunge. Easy to read the broad arrow minute hand against the bezel pearl, and in unconventional fashion, Grand Seiko fitted a cathedral style hour hand, much like you'd find on a pilot's watch. A dive bezel is better than a chronograph. In my opinion, it's easier to read and it doesn't have the downstream service costs of a chronograph. Most people don't time intervals longer than an hour with their chrono. This is a lot more intuitive and easy to read. Taking a quick look at the dial, it's Grand Seiko's signature metallic blue. We have all applique hour indices, but they are various shapes. We actually have 3 different index shapes on this dial, and then we have hands at center, which are beautifully satinated. You can see that the seconds hand has been polished and faceted, I should say, center. It is fascinating, but the thing about Grand Seiko dial furniture is that it holds its own against the best in the business. I've always considered Grand Seiko and Rolex dials to be the best finished and best assembled in the mainstream luxury category. Now, we do have some upgrades here. You can see that the watch features now a 5-day power reserve. That's up from 3 days previously on the spring drive calibers. This is the new 9RA5 automatic movement, courtesy of twin mainspring barrels. It now has 120 hours of power reserve. It's got a stop seconds function. It has a quick set date, so you can rapidly cycle the date. And of course, it has a 5-day power reserve indicator on the dial. It's automatic winding, but if you wish, you can manually wind it and watch the power reserve indicator advance. Of course, Grand Seiko's spring drive is a unique technology. There are no motors, there are no batteries, there are no capacitors. All of the drive of the train and of the hands is mechanical by means of the force of the mainspring barrel, but it has a unidirectional governing wheel that acts as an electromagnetic brake for the system, so there is no start, stop, stagger, tick, or tock of the seconds hand. It just advances perfectly smooth, and it uses a quartz oscillator that is activated by an induced electrical current, which is created by the motion of the governing wheel. And the induced electrical current wakes up that hot-rodded quartz oscillator, and no longer plus or minus 15 seconds a month. The 9RA5 spring drive is now accurate to plus or minus 10 seconds per month. And remember, there are no batteries or motors in this watch. It is truly spring driven. 600 meters water resistant. You see on the back it says for saturation diving. What that means is, if you are a hardcore professional diver, like the kind of person who would go down to do salvage work on the Monitor in 230 feet of water, you probably have had brushes with saturation diving, which includes long-term submergence, long-term decompression via a desaturation chamber, and ultimately the problem of gases that enter your equipment exiting your equipment. So most watches that are designed for saturation divers have helium gas escape valves. This one is so tightly sealed that helium gas cannot enter the case during saturation divers, so there is no need for a helium escape valve. A very bold declaration, but Grand Seiko stands by it. Now, other features of this movement are its 38 joules and its remarkable longevity. It actually is designed to last not just the lifetime of the owner, but the lifetime of the watch. And consider how long it took to achieve this automatic winding spring drive technology. From the filing of the first spring drive patents in 1977 until the first automatic spring drive came to market in 2005, the system was under development, and it was worth the wait. Now, in its latest evolution, with 120 hours of power reserve, it offers everything and more relative to what the original engineer of the system, Yoshikazu Akahane, anticipated in the late 70s. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.